Fire podcast, brother. If you ain't watching, you ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
Tough one to swallow as the Buccaneers lose on the road in Atlanta. 20-34 the final score out of that brand new space station they call a stadium, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Have you seen the pictures of that place, man? It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's not an eyesore or anything. It's pretty to look at, but my God. And I remember last year we were talking about the new Dallas Stadium being a carnival. But a rough one to face. One win turned into two wins. Two wins apparently turned into too much to ask for. The Bucs fall to the Falcons. And we are now 4-7. And the laughingstock of the NFC South, which is really shaping up to be one of the tougher divisions in football this year. And I'm glad we could be a part of it. I'd rather be the punching bag of a great division than a Titans situation. A lot of people like to compare us to the Titans. Titans are in a trash division, but let's not talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast here on YouTube and iTunes. Back for episode 16, I want to say. I want to say it's 16. Welcome back, guys. Hope you stick around and enjoy. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Cannon Fire Podcast. I'm your host, Rhett. Joined alongside me, as always, my co-host and good buddy, Mr. Evan. Bucs Football. How you doing today, man?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm starting to think more and more about the hole that the Bucs have dug themselves into. 4-7. Playoffs are playoffs are pretty much out of the question. I mean, there is a very, 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 very small chance that we make something happen, but let's be honest here. 4-7, we're not going to win out and go 9-7, make the playoffs. But hell, I could be wrong. Let's say we make the Super Bowl this year, then I will chalk this one up as an L on my record. But 4-7, basically the point I'm trying to make. It's a tough hole to dig out of. Where do we go from here? Something we wanted to talk about today as we kick off the show. We'll do a little bit of post-game on Atlanta, but really quick, let's touch on the pressing matter. That is the coaching situation. We had talked in the last episode, and you had said, and I solemnly agreed with you, this game against Atlanta very well could be the nail in the coffin for Coach Koetter, and he went out there and lost by 2 possessions. A 4th-and-1 call that, honestly, I don't believe should have been made, could have been a smarter call. I know that 4th-and-1 is 50-50 in a lot of people. I know a lot of people support it, but what I'm trying to ask is where do we go from here, and how do you think it's going to shape up headed into January?
Well, I mean, it can't go too far down too much now. I know that was a little, it didn't really make sense. I didn't sort of blurred my words there, as I do a lot. But, Atlanta's a good team. It's not like they lost 34-20 to the Browns. That'd be totally different. Koetter would probably be fired.
On the spot.
Wouldn't be on the staff now if that was the case. But I mean, Atlanta still was a good team. But I mean, how it's going to shape up is heads are going to roll, and not necessarily players, but coaches and front office. It's not going to be pretty. Do I think? Maybe Dirk. I think it's fair to give Dirk the rest of the season. I've been on record. I like Dirk. I really do. But I think if the defense keeps performing that way, it can't you can't keep him. If the Bucs go 4-12, you can't keep him.
Right.
Even if they go 5-11, you can't keep them. If they go 6-10, that's been my number, and I'm sticking with it. I still think they need to get to 2 wins to save Cutter's job. But let's say those 2 wins, and then the rest of them are blowout losses, I could see Cutter still being fired. So you never really know. But yeah, come January, if this keeps up, Dirk Cutter's not going to be a head coach, and the Buccaneers are going to be looking for a new head coach.
Now, looking at options, the obvious choice that people have been talking about is the Gruden comeback, which I am still all for. I really don't see any cons here. Obviously, you could find some, but at the moment, I'm going to buy into the hype and say that I would like to see Gruden back. But other than Gruden, if we're talking more realistic, things don't work out with Gruden, do you see a lot of options out there or something that we could pick up to help out with what we need?
There's a couple good options, as there is, it's pretty much the same options every year. A couple guys I like. I do like Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator for the Patriots. I think he deserves pretty much a second chance because his first stint with the Broncos was not successful, but went to the Patriots. I think he's learned a lot. And then a couple of other guys I like. I like Terrell Austin. He's the defensive coordinator for the Lions. He's been our defensive coordinator for a little bit. I like him a lot. And how about another name I throw out there? Jim Harbaugh, the head coach at Michigan. Currently,
did win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, he got to a Super Bowl. His brother won.
Oh, yeah. Yikes, my bad.
You're right. I don't think the Buccaneers would go to college unless it was for Harbaugh. I don't think they would hire a college coach unless it was Jim Harbaugh. I highly doubt that happens because I don't think he leaves Michigan, but it's a possibility.
And it's a situation for him, kind of like people had brought up the situation for Gruden in Monday Night Football. Harbaugh is right where he wants to be. He's been wanting to coach at Michigan. He talked about it. I remember when he first got there, all the hype that followed him that first season, and ever since then, I'm pretty sure he's happy there. But not a bad option at all, especially when you look out and some of the talent that you can see. A lot of guys who aren't going to have jobs come January, we could swoop in and make something happen, but as of right now, just a hairy situation, man, and I'm hanging on for dear life because it can only end one of 2 ways. And past couple of seasons, it's really only been ending one way for us.
Yeah, and every other year it ends the same way for each head coach of the Buccaneers. It's cycle, and the cycle is going to end hopefully sometime sooner rather than later, and hopefully, honestly, I hope it ends with Koetter. I hope that he finishes the season strong and makes the adjustments in the offseason. I hope he does, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the team's not struggling right now, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like his job is 100% safe because it's not. Is that man to save the day Gruden? I don't know. He hasn't coached in 10 years. I know that. Different game now. But time will tell. But Dirk Koetter and Jason Light they're running out of time. So they got to do something. Jason Light's situation is a bit trickier because Jason Light is in his contract. Dirk Cutter's not. So the Buccaneers, if they fire Dirk Koetter, would owe Dirk Koetter money. They won't owe Jason Light any money. That may make it a bit easier for the Glazers to fire Light and keep Koetter.
Now, firing Light, keeping Koetter, do you think they move Koetter around, or does he's pretty much stuck in that head coach position?
Koetter stays with the head coach. I think the Glazers may say to Koetter, Cutter's a loyal guy, but I think they may say to Koetter that, hey, you can stay as a head coach, you can stay in your current position, but you have to change up certain position things. Like, let's say if he wants to get rid of Monken, or let's say he says, you can stay, but if Mike Smith has to go, then if Koetter disagrees with it, then they'll fire Koetter. it's happened before. Like I said, I told you the Lovey story on Instagram Live the other night, that Lovey wanted to bring in a defensive specialist to help with the defense, and the Glazers didn't like that, so they fired him. It happens a lot with a lot of NFL head coaches. But going back to the Atlanta game, offense started off slow. Julio Jones had a field day. He almost got the record for receiving yards. I just don't know. The Bucs said they tried 14 different coverages on that one would work. That's on Mike Smith. And I don't know why you don't put your best cornerback, Brent Grimes, on their best receiver, Julio Jones. Mike Smith talks about a lot putting your players in a position to succeed. Well, he didn't do that this Sunday, and Dirk Koetter didn't either with the play calling. Just not good, and that might be the breaking point for him. So I would love to sit here and just try to predict the future, but it's just so hard right now because it's a week-to-week thing.
And picking up on the coaching madness, we'll talk about this one more rumor and shut it down before we talk about that game against Atlanta, because we have to talk about it. Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator Todd Monken took to Twitter on Tuesday to share his thoughts on the rumors that are swirling around him reportedly being contacted by College Mississippi State for the university's head football coaching vacancy. Monken shared the following message on his Twitter account and said, quote, "Do we really have to go through this again?" However, Coach Koetter confirmed during Monday's press conference that the rumors are false and that Monken plans to remain with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we here at the Cannon Fire Podcast have done you a favor, and we have shut that shit down for you. Todd Monken not going anywhere, as much as you like or dislike him. I had seen a lot of people clamoring for him to just go ahead and take the job, but it's a lot bigger than that. Anyways, Todd Monken not going anywhere, so if you guys want him to leave, then you're out of luck. But we're going to talk about this Atlanta game. And I don't want to talk about this Atlanta game. Don't want to talk about a lot of games this season, but we're going to talk about this Atlanta game. And pure and simple, looking back at every NFC South game we've played this year, we just got outplayed. Obviously, this game, we kept it a little bit closer. We did have a chance to win the game come third, fourth quarter, but ultimately it wasn't enough. Falcons ran away with it, and it's another loss at the NFC South. We've been outplayed every single division game. That's really what it is. This game we came out, believe we scored first, had the field goal. 3-0 Bucs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Falcons answered with a touchdown. No. Was it a touchdown or a field goal? Because I remember it was 10-3 for a while. I tried not to remember with the game, man.
Field goal.
So they answer with a field goal and then come back with a touchdown, and after that, we just can't stop them. It's too easy for them. First half fell apart, and you've heard for years that this is a second-half team, but really, just like I said, not enough going on. 34-20 your final score. Bucs couldn't pull it out. We got outplayed, and it was sad to watch. How are you feeling about the Atlanta game?
Well, it's tough to describe. It really is. A lot of emotions, confusion, which was basically what the Bucs secondary was. They looked confused after every play. It looked like they had no. It was like some type of miscommunication. I was confused. I was mad. Disgruntled, dejected, whatever you want to say. Because I and some fans are going to be happy that they lost because, hey, you get the fire Mike Smith. Everybody talks about changing the culture, and the only way to change the culture is to win. You're not going to change the culture by hiring a head coach or signing a free agent. It's winning. You have to win to develop a winning culture. It's breaking news, people. And right now the Buccaneers aren't doing that. And Sunday proved that Dirk Koetter may not be the man for the job. I hope he was. I hoped he was. I still think he may be. But this game was the first time I had doubt in his abilities. And if he keeps losing, it's going to get to him. And there's a reason that Jameis Winston is going to start throwing this week. There's a reason.
And back to how the game made you feel. This loss for me was pretty rough. I was watching the game with my girlfriend. We were hanging out, having a good time, but really, the end of the day, it hurt a lot more than any other game because, in the grand scale of things, you look back, this is the game in the season that we could have gone in there and turned it around. Still had 6 losses, still we're kind of fighting our way back up. 2 wins in a row, a win on the road, had momentum going. Obviously, we didn't beat the Patriots or anything. We beat the Jets and the Dolphins. But still, 2 wins in a row is still 2 wins in a row. You have a lot of momentum going into a division rival game. You hope you're more prepared. Defense looks great. And everything just falls apart. And there goes the tiny sliver of hope that we had for this team to turn around somehow and finish 10-6 and make the playoffs. But everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. I'm excited to see what does end up happening. But really just, it hurts, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're not the only Bucs fan feeling that way. Really sucks. And, like I said, I don't think it's right to be cheering when they lose just because you want to see a change. It's okay to see a change, but don't cheer. I'd still be upset if they lost. It's different when I want a coaching change or want a player gone. You still root for that player or that coach because right now he's working his butt off to try and win. Coaches, they put a lot of hard work into game plan, and that's a lot of stress on game days that they're putting on themselves and on their families. They risk a lot, and to cheer for them when they lose, it's not right.
It's not right at all. And back to the discussion we had after the Arizona game, people clamoring to lose out and pick up the draft pick, bring in a new coaching staff, fire everyone, get a great draft pick. That's not how things work in the National Football League. Okay? You've got to deal with what you're given, and you've got to prove yourself as a team. If you go out there and you're the ass end of the league for a draft pick, and you can't figure it out at the end of the day, you're going to bring in new talent, and you're just going to ruin them. There's going to be no development. Look at the Browns, for God's sakes.
Mm-hmm.
It's rough, man.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, if the Buccaneers don't get this turned around soon, they will start to become the Browns, with no hope. A lot of draft picks, a lot of young players, but nobody to put it together, and that's coaching, unfortunately. And if they don't get it fixed soon, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, it's something that's got to be looked at. We've already talked about it not being the players. Really just comes down to coaching, and that's what it is. And it's an internal issue that we apparently still have not figured out. And I don't know if it's going to be something that's going to be figured out by the end of the year. But silver lining in all of this, and something that we can look at and something we can debate, because I know a lot of people are going back and forth on this. Jameis Winston recently had an MRI, came back clear, and is now able to throw. He's going to be throwing all week at practice, in a position to be healthy enough to play on Sunday. But the question is, should he play on Sunday against the Packers in Lambeau in December?
I don't think so. I think the smart move is to sit him for the rest of the year. The season's over. Why risk it? And me and my dad were actually talking about this yesterday. My dad brought up a good point. If, let's say, okay, it's different if Winston is suspended. Okay, it's different if he's suspended for certain, the Uber thing. And if Jameis gets injured again, if he gets, let's say he hurts his shoulder again, it's worse this time. And let's say, he's out for a very long time, right? Like he's going to miss half the season. Gruden's not coming here. He lost all interest right there. He wants to coach Jameis Winston. That's one of the reasons why John Gruden is interested in coming here. And if Winston goes down, if he's not ready and he goes down and he's out for 6 to 9 months, Gruden is not going to come here. I guarantee it. Koetter will be fired and Gruden will not be the head coach.
And something I wanted to talk about with Jameis, he was cleared on the MRI, but from personal experience, man, I never really trust MRIs 100%. Obviously, it can say that he's cleared to play, cleared to practice, and that is A-OK. But MRIs don't really go into full detail, because I've personally had MRIs back when I was playing football in high school, and I'd walk in there, get an MRI on a joint or an ankle or something, and it would come back. It would come back, and Dr. Woods, or the trainer we had at the school, he'd say, yeah, you're good, you're fine. But I looked at him and I'd say, how good is it? Because, I'm limping my way through the hallways right now, and it came up on an MRI that I'm good to go. Obviously, that's not the case. So I'm not saying Jameis isn't in good enough condition to play. I'm sure he is smart enough to know if he wants to play and how heavy he should take it. But I never believe MRIs 100%, simply because of that, man.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He's gonna play no matter what because he wants to win. He wants to win at all costs, and he's gonna really try to push Koetter to play him. And honestly, Koetter needs him to play because Koetter wants to save his job. That's why he's doing this. That's why Dirk Koetter is allowing this to happen. Koetter knows. He's a smart guy. Koetter is a smart guy. He knows that his job is at stake here. And but what's questionable to me is Winston. Winston is cleared to throw and might play. Okay, so maybe showing you that they would like to win. But at the same time, today the team released veteran tight end Luke Stocker and defensive end Darryl Tapp, and signed Alan Cross and rookie defensive end Pat O'Connor to the active roster. And they signed cornerback Maurice Fleming back to the practice squad. And then later on, about 3 hours later, they signed Bobo Wilson, wide receiver. He was on Hard Knocks, and they signed him to the active roster. So that shows you that maybe they're trying to get a look at some of these younger players, possibly tank maybe the rest of the season. But then yet again, you want to put Winston in. I don't understand.
Right. It takes away from potential, and the thing with Koetter, you had said, he's a smart guy. He knows that this situation, his job is on the line, but I'll tell you what, he's got some balls on him to come in here in a situation that could be potentially disastrous. You think about Jameis going down and another bad injury that really can only get worse, re-aggravating that shoulder, being out for a longer time. Like you said, that pretty much blows any hopes of a new head coach out of the water. Pretty much blows any hopes of your starting quarterback getting better before the end of the season out of the water. And it pretty much loses Koetter his job if Jameis were to go down and we were to lose out. It's a risky situation, but he's trying to take advantage of it, and I commend him for that. He's a smart guy. I like him. I do like Koetter. I'm with you 100%. I still feel like he's the guy for the team. I'd like to see him turn it around, but end of the day, if you can't make it happen, then you can't make it happen.
Yeah, and he needs to make a decision. Do you want to win or do you want to lose? Because having Winston throw is showing me that you want to win. Both the moves you made today are showing me that you would like to lose. I don't understand what you're getting at here, and yeah, they got to figure it out because Winston. Okay, he does. He gives them a better chance to win. He does give them a better chance to win, and speaking of offense, the one guy that I think would help Winston, not named John Gruden, is a name that I'll reveal at the end of the podcast. Probably my second favorite head coaching candidate, besides John Gruden. John Gruden would be one on my list. This guy would be two, but
Greg Schiano.
Oh, how do you know? How do you find?
What?
Well, I guess it's Tarleton podcast now, people. The surprise is ruined.
The surprise is over.
I guarantee it was not Greg Schiano. Tennessee fans literally just
Oh,
pushed
I'm
Greg
so
Schiano
glad
job.
he got duped out of that job in Tennessee, man. I mean, just the way they pulled the rug out from under him. I hate to see people go down like that. I love seeing people prosper, but Greg Schiano came in here and he really messed with this team in a way that the team shouldn't have been messed with. He set the tone, and that's why I dislike him as much as I do. Now, something, and we'll talk about the coach like you said at the end of the podcast, but something that was brought up, a discussion point that was actually brought up at my work this morning, that was a pretty good point. We spent maybe 10, 15 minutes talking about it. Mentally, for Jameis Winston, do you think he's going to have to come back in here and look to get, not help mentally because he's not crazy, but looking back at things, Jameis has never been a loser. Jameis does not have a loser attitude. You look at college, you look at his youth football days, high school, the guy has never been a loser. He comes into Tampa, and this team has pretty much taught him how to be a loser, unfortunately. But his last few games before the injury was re-aggravated, there were a couple of plays. As much as I hate to say it, Jameis Winston was probably the worst player on the field for a handful of plays in his last games. And Jameis has never been in that situation before because he's not a loser. Coming back into this game off of the injury, how do you think mentally he's going to have to prepare himself for this? Do you think it's going to be something he'll have to sit down and focus on, or is it just going to be another day in the office?
I mean, it's something that I think he has been sitting down and focusing on. He hasn't just been standing there on the sideline thinking about, daisies and stuff. He's been trying to get better. He's been watching all the same film, and I think that I think Winston. I think he's gonna do okay in Green Bay if he plays. I don't think he should play, but I think he'll do okay. You're right. He is not a loser, and he's won a little bit here in Tampa, but I think it's a little too early to say that it's wearing on him too much.
I'm not saying he's a loser. I'm just saying the team kind of humbled him a bit. You can't deny that.
Well, yeah, but I think everybody needs to be humbled a little bit,
Yeah.
I think James will be fine as long as his shoulder holds up well. I mean, it is his throwing shoulder, so it's a bit room for concern. And as long as whatever this investigation happens, whatever happens with this, I think he'll be okay. Like I said, Winston was a very good quarterback before he got injured. The first 4 games he was very good and got injured and then went downhill. And so, I mean, I think he'll be back and better than ever next year with whoever the head coach is. Whether it's Gruden, Koetter, or the guy that I'm going to give at the end of the podcast.
God, you're kind of keeping me on edge because I'm a little bit curious. I know it's already Schiano, but we'll talk about it at the end of the show. Something else we wanted to touch on before we do a little pregame of Green Bay. The running back situation. Doug Martin went down against Atlanta. He is on concussion protocol. He'll be missing a couple of games. And honestly, wouldn't surprise me if Doug's gone next year, as much as I hate to say it.
Doug is gone.
Yeah, it's rough. But for the meantime, let's talk about, with Doug Martin under concussion protocol, who gets the start at running back next week. We saw 3 guys come out over the course of the season, prove themselves, show different styles. Peyton Barber did an excellent job. I believe he had 2 touchdowns on Sunday. Charles Sims shows out. When he is a north and south runner, I got to say he's one of the better running backs we have, as much as I really don't like him. If he finds a way to get a hole and run north and south, Charles Sims is a talented guy. And Jaquiz Rogers just kind of going out there and doing Jaquiz Rogers things. Who do you think gets the start against Green Bay?
Jaquiz Rogers will probably get the start, and then Charles Sims will come in on 3rd down. And Peyton Barber will probably split carries with Rogers on 1st and 2nd down, I would suppose. But I think my prediction unfortunately, is going to come true. I remember I said this, I believe, maybe even after the Arizona game, I might have said it. I said, the running back room next year is going to look very different, and I'm still holding to that. I think Rodgers and Barber are here to stay. I think Martin and Sims are both gone, and I think the Bucs end up signing a running back in free agency and end up drafting one fairly early in this year's draft.
You thinking like third round?
I'm thinking anywhere from rounds two to 4.
Honestly, I gotta say, man, the running back class this year is so stacked in college football. I think we could definitely find a steal in a second-round draft pick at the running back position. But that begs the question. People are talking about the draft. What do you have for first round? We'll touch on this briefly, and we'll get back to the running back situation. We'll wrap up that discussion. But first-round pick, what do you think it's going to be this year? Pass rusher?
It has to be. I don't see, if they get a top 10 pick, I don't see how it can be. And there's a lot of good guys out there. I love Bradley Chubb, from defensive end from NC State. He's quick, he's big, he can play the run, play the pass.
He's one of my top guys, man.
He brings that swagger. He's the guy who he spit on the FSU logo after NC State beat FSU. He played Clemson, and he took the quarterback's towel and was trying to play keep away with it. He likes to play those mind games, and he's confident. I love that. But sadly, his stock has risen a lot. He was went into the season being a top 20 pick. Now he's a top 5 pick. So
yeah,
the Bucs need to get inside the top 5, and nobody wants him to be there. But other names, are Arden Key, defensive end from LSU, was a top prospect, was a top 5 pick projected at the start of the year. Had a couple injuries this year, has fallen off a bit. Top 15 guy for me now. And Harold Landry, defensive end from Boston College. Always been a top 20 guy for me. I think he'd be solid. I think the Bucs could possibly, if they're sitting at number 8, maybe number 7, they could trade down a bit. Trade to 11, maybe 12, and still grab him. I think that would be a very good move. And then, if I had to go secondary, it would be either Florida State safety Derwin James, who was a lock for the top 5, but, it just hasn't lived up to real expectations. I mean, he's been good, but I think everyone overhyped him a bit. He's now a top 15 guy. And cornerback / safety from Alabama, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is one of the most talented players in the draft. So then he'll be a top 10 pick. So any one of those guys would be a big help, but I think they need to go pass rusher with round 1.
And talking back about the running back situation, one of the prospects that has stood out for me, not a lot of people have been talking about him. He does get a little bit of love, but honestly, I got to say second round, he could be a steal if he's available. Bryce Love out of Stanford. That guy, he's a balanced back, and that's what I like to see. Those are the guys you see come into the league, and you see them prosper, and you see them adapt, find their play style, and they go out there and make plays. I would have more faith in a guy like Bryce Love than I would Saquon Barkley day 1 in the NFL.
I like a guy you might have heard of him, but you probably haven't. His name is Rashad Penny.
Doesn't ring a bell, actually.
Yeah. His name is Rashad Penny. He's a really under the radar guy. He's just been awesome this year. Awesome last year. A really really good running back. He played for San Diego State, and he's projected to probably go anywhere from 3 to 5. I think the Bucs, if they can get him in the 3rd round, I'd be ecstatic. If you find time tonight, or look up his highlights. I'm looking at it right now. YouTube. It's a 3-minute video. I think he'd be well worth a 3rd round pick. I think the Bucs' top 3 picks go as followed. In no order. It's defensive end, cornerback, and then running back, in no order. If Saquon Barkley's there whenever the Bucs are picking, Saquon Barkley's probably the pick, because I think he's just a game changer. If there's no defensive ends there in the 1st round and Minkah Fitzpatrick's there, he's probably the pick. You never know, but I think that defensive end, corner, and running back are the first 3 picks regardless. And keep an eye on guys like Penny. Keep an eye on a guy like Royce Freeman from Oregon. Keep an eye on a guy like Sonny Mitchell from Georgia. Keep eye on a guy like Nick Chubb. I love him from Georgia. He could be in the 2nd round. He'll be there. And I think he's a great runner. got injured 2 years ago, real bad injury, came back strong, and looked better than ever. So a lot of talent, like you said, a lot of talent in running back position this year. I think the Bucs will finally take to their advantage.
And one more person I wanted to give a shout out to and show some love, a prospect. This guy is going to be special in a couple of years. I actually played high school ball with him. He plays UMass right now. They're starting corner number 9, Isaiah Rogers. He is one hell of a cornerback. If you get the chance, check out his highlights, man. Kickoff return, he is a beast. He's always been a monster. He's always been one hell of an athlete. And I'm telling you, if he was a senior this year, you could easily steal him 3rd round, 4th round, because he's a talented guy. He's a nice guy, too. I used to hang out with him every once in a while, but definitely someone you're going to want to be on the lookout for if you guys are interested in scouting college players. Isaiah Rogers is going to be a huge name in a couple of years. But let's take a look at the Green Bay team that we have to face in Lambeau on Sunday. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a game in Lambeau in December. We've talked about it all year. It's going to be a Packers team without Aaron Rodgers, but obviously it's a team that can get the job done because they only held the Steelers to a last-second field goal, and the Steelers are probably top 3 team in the league. This is still the Packers. They don't have Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was actually throwing 60-yard bombs. I don't know if you saw that video. I think it was last Sunday before the game. He was on the field, wasn't warming up in his uniform or anything, but he was out there throwing bombs. Just, how long's it been? 2 months since he went down?
About a month and a half, yeah. He's not eligible to return in for another 2 games, though, so he's going to miss this week's game, and he's going to miss next week versus the Browns. And Packers fans and the Packers team they're believing they got a shot at the playoffs because, honestly, they look at these 2 games, and if you were a Packers fan, you look at these 2 games and say these are 2 winnable games. You win both of these, then get Rodgers back, go on a run, and you can make the playoffs, and when Rodgers is there, he's magic.
What a storied season that'd be, too. And I'll tell you, man, I saw that video of Aaron Rodgers throwing the deep ball, just warming up, just goofing off. I'm telling you, a beat-up, injured Aaron Rodgers is better than half the league, and that's saying something. Aaron Rodgers is an incredible quarterback. Can't cut these guys any slack. But back to the game on Sunday. As I was saying, this is still the Packers. Okay? This is still the Green Bay Packers in their house in December. Don't know if the forecast calls for snow. Do you think it'll snow on Sunday or no?
I don't think it'll snow. I think it'll be cold. I think it'll be pretty cold. Let me see if I can actually pull up the weather.
Oh yeah.
In Green Bay, what it's going to be. I'll pull it up right now.
I'll tell you what though. Back to building the hype, because this is a podcast by the fans for the fans. We are here for you guys. And at this point, Bucs fans, we are all we got at this point. But if we want to build some hype surrounding Jameis coming back this week, if he starts, what a way for Jameis to come back if he knocks down the Steelers in Lambeau in December, possibly if it's snowing. Can you imagine? That would be the game of the year for me. Really doesn't matter how we win it. It could be a last-second field goal. I don't care if we win that game and lose the rest of our games. If we can beat the Packers in Lambeau, I will be a happy camper.
There you go. That's the second time you said Steelers.
I said Steelers?
Yeah, you said Steelers. You said Steelers before we started the show, too. I was like, I had to double check. I was like, wait a minute. And then I was like, yeah.
My bad.
No big deal.
Everybody
makes mistakes. The weather in Green Bay on Sunday is looking partly cloudy with a temperature of 44 degrees. So,
nice.
Thank God the Bucs don't have to play there next week, where on Thursday it's partly cloudy, 27 degrees.
Nice. Partly cloudy, get some rain going in there. Oh, it'll be a fun game to watch next Thursday night for the Packers. But
actually, a little fun fact. The Buccaneers have actually won the past 3 games that they played in that's been under 49 degrees. That was at Kansas City last year, at Philly the year before, the one I was at, and then at Washington the year before that. So they've won the last 3 times that they've played in temperatures under 49 degrees. So you never know.
Definitely, man. But as we said, let's pregame this Green Bay matchup, and then we're going to start wrapping up the show. We will unveil your mystery coach that we all know is Greg Schiano. But this is the Packers. This is a fast-paced team, another fast-paced team, and honestly, this Packers team could very well give the Falcons a run for their money if they were to face each other, because it is the Packers. I can't stop saying that. Glad I'm not saying it's the Steelers, because it's not the Steelers, but it's the Packers. And it's a fast-paced team. It's going to be another tough contest that we're really going to have to adapt and figure out how to pick things up and go in there and do our job. You got to keep up with this team. Can't get outscored.
Well, and I mean, if they make Brett Hundley look like Brett Favre, we're gonna be able to really see the end of Dirk Koetter and Mike Smith. That's it. I don't care if they make Hundley throw, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I want both of them fired. And I think a lot of Scott Reynolds, the Pewter Report, initially put out the Gruden thing with, after the Arizona game. He said this is not a calling for Dirk Koetter to be fired. This is merely a warning. I think if the Bucs go out with Green Bay and get blown out by Brett Hundley, I think Scott Reynolds will finally pull that article that says Dirk Koetter should be fired, and I will too. I'll go on record saying that he should be fired. But let's hope not. I don't think so, because I think it'll be a bit closer, because the Packers don't have the offensive capabilities that the Falcons do. And the Packers also, I don't think, have the better defense than the Falcons. I think the Falcons have the better defense, and with Jameis going back, maybe they squeak out with a win. They got to rely on the run game, especially if Jameis comes back with a shoulder. Rely on the run game to open up the play action. And then, on defense, pressure. I can't say enough. If you don't get pressure on Hundley, guess what? It's going to be a long day. Jordy Nelson's talented. Devontae Adams is talented. Randall Cobb's talented. They got a lot of talent on that team. And Hundley, if given enough time, he'll carve you up. I think it's important to get Vernon Hargreaves back this week, too. They need him badly.
And something else to look at, that Packers offense. A run game really hasn't been established that much for them this year. This could be the game for the defense to just put up or shut up and really make a statement and stop that running game. As we know, a fairly weak running game for Green Bay. Obviously nothing to stick your nose up at, but nothing they've been able to get cooking at all this year.
Yeah, but I like their running backs a lot. I like their running backs a ton. Sad to say is the truth, though. The kid's been looking pretty good. I forget his name exactly, but he's been looking pretty good over the past couple of weeks. In Dallas, he played very well. Can't let it happen. And a lot of people are saying, this week's the week for the Packers run game to be alive. And I believe it was a retweet by Joe Bucs fan. And we're wrapping up here. Let's see if I can find it. And we can do predictions, offensive and defensive MVPs if you'd like.
Oh yeah.
And then let me see if I can find it. Let's see. And can't find it, of course. Why would you be able to find it?
That's all right, man.
It just said something along the lines of, here we go. Yeah, Jamal Williams. It just said Jamal Williams playing well in all phases, running, receiving, and blocking. Mike McCarthy, the Packers head coach. Man, I can't even get my words right. And Evan Silva, who is a writer, quoted the tweet and said, just should be looking at another monster workload versus the atrocious Bucs defense this week. So they're gonna really look at it, and they're gonna try to pound the rock, and the Bucs gotta be ready. So we'll see.
Definitely, man. Something I wanted to acknowledge really quick, because we acknowledged it before, and I have to take it like a man. Everyone has bad years. And I got to say that in fantasy football this year, I have all but just quit. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the second-place seed from last year, have fallen to 5-7 after you beat me last week. And I tell you what, I don't know why. You can't change your lineup from your phone. you can't change your starters from the NFL app on my iPhone, so I have to go onto the computer. But I haven't traded Dak these past 2 weeks. He's been sitting in the starting spot, and guess who's on my bench putting up 28 points a week?
Tom Brady.
Tom fucking Brady. But anyways, man, good game this week. You took it, and you're second in the league right now, 8-4. The Pascinator, Michael, running away with it at 10-2, and I am 8-5-7. I've all but call it quits. I'm glad our man Morgan is hanging in there. They're 3-9 at the tail end in last place. That's all right, buddy. That's all right. At least I'm not last. But just wanted to say congrats. I got you last time. You got me this time. So we'll see how next season fares. If I can make some good picks next year. But let's hear who that coach was you were teasing all earlier.
Well, before I do that, I'm gonna drag it out as far as I can. I'm gonna give you my quick offensive, defensive MVP and score prediction.
All right, fair enough. We'll do that, and then we'll talk about the coach situation.
As much as I want the Bucs to win because it would quiet things down, they're not going to. I don't see them win another game this year, whether Jameis plays or not. I don't think it's going to be the offense struggling. I think it'll be the defense. I think not really Brett Hundley. I think Jamal Williams is going to have a big day. So I'm going to say Packers 28-20. Yeah, Packers 28-20. They're gonna win, and them Bucs fans will really be wanting Koetter and Smith fired. Offensive MVP, I'm going to say Mike Evans because I think he's due for a game. He's due for a big game. He's due for a touchdown. And defensive MVP, this is tough. I'm gonna go Justin Evans. I'm digging the hype. So I'm going Mike Evans and Justin Evans. 2 Evans. All right.
Yeah, man, and
Evan,
looking at
wait, so Evan is predicting that Justin Evans and Mike Evans will have big days. I wonder what Evan Smith will do.
Yeah, really. But looking at our draft sheet this year, I was taking a look at the prospects we had. Pretty much everyone we drafted this year has come out and made a statement some way, somehow. Pretty much everyone but Jeremy McNichols. Obviously, he's not making any statements anywhere anytime soon. But now, if you guys, I'll tell you what, if you guys remember Jeremy McNichols' name 2 years from now, then you're a real OG. But pretty much everyone we've had, O.J. Howard, Justin Evans coming out and making plays. These guys are going out there and doing what they have to do, and it's good to see. Very
Chris
good.
Godwin.
Chris Godwin, oh yeah. Probably, we'll probably talk about it next week because we'll see how this game goes. But Chris Godwin in a position to potentially take Hump's job. How are you? Yeah, actually, we'll talk about that next week because it's a good talking point. It's something that I definitely want to pay attention to this game coming up, especially if we get James back.
Definitely. And one more thing I want to say. Next week I'll look and do my crystal ball again.
Oh, yeah.
As I like to do a lot. And I'm going to predict what the Buccaneers offense is going to look like next year. And it revolves around Chris Godwin. So I'll definitely share that with you next week. I've been thinking about it for a couple weeks now, and I'm pretty sure I have my mind set on what it's going to look like.
So it's going to be an action-packed show next week. But right now, let's focus on what's going on. I need to give you my offensive and defensive MVP. Offense MVP. Oh, yikes. I didn't think this far through. I was thinking too much about my defensive MVP. Offensive MVP, if Jameis comes back, I want to say it's going to be Jameis. I think he's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder. He's going to be more focused than he has been in weeks. Obviously, he's been sitting on the sideline for weeks, but you guys know what I mean. He's going to be dialed in, ready to play, and ready to win. I think he could go out there and have a hell of a day, especially if he doesn't throw any picks. Defensive MVP, I'm going to have to buy into that secondary, man. If Vernon Hargreaves gets back on the field, I think he's going to do a very good job at taking advantage of the mistakes that Brent Hundley makes a lot. And it should be a good day for him if they get him back. But if not, I'm going to go with the safe bet and say Gerald McCoy. I think he'll do a pretty good job at stopping the run if we can get there. I hope he plays a key role in that. It's always good to see him go out there and do some work. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this. Actually, no, it's not, because you did not reveal who that head coach was.
And you
sneaky
did not give your
bastard.
for the game.
Oh, my prediction of the game, my final score. I am going to say, I think we're going to sneak out of this one. I'm calling it 31-28 Bucks.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down. I think it's going to be that kind of game, either side, because a lot of people like to tarnish the Bucs, the reputation, the losing culture that we have had. But the Buccaneers have always been a tough team to play when they show up and they put their boots on. So I think it'll be one of those games, 31-28 Bucs. I'm going to say it here. I think we can come in there and win this thing. I'm excited.
Bold. That's definitely bold. All right, man. Yeah, I'll see you later.
Okay. All right. See you later. I guess everyone's just going to be pissed at you for a whole week because you're not going to get out of here without saying who the coach was.
I didn't already do that?
Definitely did not.
You already predicted it for me, Greg Schiano.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stick a pin in that.
I'm just kidding. It's Greg Schiano's brother.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he has a brother, actually, so that might not be possible. If he did, he probably bullied him as a kid.
Maybe that's why Shiano's always got such a stick up his ass.
Yeah, maybe. You never know with that guy. Well, anyways, the coach said that I like, and this is no sources or nothing. There's no I don't know of any interest, between both sides, but the coach that I like the most is from a very good team right now and a very, very good offensive team with a young quarterback. It's Eagles offensive coordinator Mark Reich. Or maybe I said his name wrong. Wow. Had it prepared the whole time and messed it up anyway. Frank Reich. Sorry. Former NFL quarterback Frank Reich. I played for the Bills. And he was the Eagles offensive coordinator last year and this year. And I've been impressed. I think Doug Peterson does do a lot with the offense there, the head coach, but Frank Reich does a lot too, and he was one of the main reasons for developing Carson Wentz, and I think he's done a great job. I think he could do a great job with Jameis. So on my head coaching list right now, number 1 is John Gruden, number 2 is Frank Reich, number 3 is Josh McDaniels, and I haven't gotten top 5 yet because Dirk Cutter's not been fired yet, so it would be pointless for me to create a full list. So maybe when Dirk Cutter's fired, we'll make a show about potential candidates.
Definitely got a lot of fun things coming up this offseason. Going to have the mock draft in there. We'll fit it in there somewhere. We'll probably do a mock draft. That'll be fun. A mock draft. Yeah. We will have our fantasy football draft towards the end of the offseason, and in between we will also probably do maybe some fan shows. I know we had a couple of people who really wanted to come on the show, and I feel bad because I said I didn't forget you, and then eventually I forgot them. I'm just kidding.
Hey, what kind of host are you?
Huh?
What kind of host are you? Forgetting about the fans.
Not a good one, I guess. But we'll probably bring some people on for the offseason. We'll talk about, just shoot the shit, talk some Buck stories, and all that good stuff. So it should be fun coming up in the offseason as we prepare. Only 5 weeks away.
Wow. That's so sad. Football goes by so fast.
It does, man. It feels like it just came back. 5 weeks left of regular season football. I'm excited for the playoffs, but I'm going to miss watching my Bucks play. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast here on YouTube and iTunes. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and iTunes. Also, leave a review and a comment if you haven't already. It doesn't cost you a dime, and it helps us out a bunch. And if you guys also haven't, make sure you follow us on Instagram at Cannon Fire Podcast and check out the Facebook page at Cannon Fire Podcast. Mr. Evan, any last words?
Not really, man. Big game this week. Game that I believe I've said will determine whether Dirk Cutter's back next year. If he loses, he's not. If he wins, there's still a shot. So, big game. Go Bucs.
A lot on the line this week, ladies and gentlemen. Dirk Cutter's job hanging in the balance. I know some people are excited, but I'm going to get on out of here. Me and Evan are going to get on out of here. Hope you guys stick around and enjoy. Remember, let's get things turned around this week. Let's go in there and let's beat Green Bay. Hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your week, and go Bucs.